Thanks for having me today. I would like to acknowledge all the animal care organisations and volunteers here today for the summit. My presentation is a brief overview of the free cat desexing program, local government funded, that I ran at Banyule Council in Victoria from 2013 to 2021. Why enforcement only failed and how the community cat program started, along with the results it had for the cats and community and council. So from an animal management officer and working directly with my community, I saw firsthand the issues of cat management and the challenges people had relating to cats within the community. Firstly, cat trapping programs did not reduce the number of semi-owned and unowned cats. It just increased intake. In most communities, the disadvantaged areas, so where you will get your highest intake and complaints, because despite people wanting to do the right thing by the cats, they didn't actually have the resources or funds to fix the cat overpopulation issue. So the number of stray cats remained high, as did my complaints, which led to more trapping and more impounds. Throughout kitten season, my days were spent picking up litters of kittens being surrendered, quite often via the same properties as the year before. The more time went on, the more community pressure came for mandates. The community wanting cat containment laws introduced, with the expectation that once they were introduced, they would never see a free roaming cat. And what happens with the stray cat population as there's no owner to enforce? So more cats are trapped, more impounded. We also had a limit of 2 cats per property without a permit in place. Almost all the properties that I had dealt with had more than 2 cats with no permit. So this got me thinking about, if we issued compliance notices to these cat carers, is this really going to achieve the legislative requirements? Will it create more surrenders and intake? And how will it achieve compliance? I always said we were educators first, but what does education really mean? Does it mean if we hand someone a flyer with literature of legal requirements for pet owners, is that education? Do some people even have the ability to read that literature? Do we just hand it to them, wipe our hands, and say we've done our job? Is this really education? By having an enforcement-only approach, it does not address the root cause of the problem, and it certainly doesn't stop the kittens being born. There had to be a better way for cat management, and we had to do better for both the cats and the community. And the picture here of the little kitten was the catalyst for change for me, to know that I was never going to work in that same traditional practice anymore. So without implementing proactive funded programs for cats across Australia, the situation will remain the same. The supply will continue to be greater than the demand, the toll widespread, not only for cats, but for us humans who care for them too, those who need to rehome them and for those who have to euthanize them. Council officers will continue trapping programs with little to no effect at all, and the burden to pounds, shelters and rescues will only keep increasing. So who really pays for enforcement action? Issuing a fine doesn't mean it'll get paid, or the cat will get desexed, chipped or registered, which still leaves you with non-compliance and adds further financial burden for someone barely keeping food on the table. So working in the community, we already know where the problem areas are for cats. So we know the areas to target for community cat programs. My thought was, to have all the people in the community caring for stray cats take full ownership of them by council funding and providing free desexing, microchipping and registration. And of course, animal management, providing transport to those cats who are owned by people who had no transport. So there was also to be no limits on how many cats could be desexed. Basically, if you had a cat that needed desexing, we would get it done. So this community cat program started in 2013 by targeting the areas with highest intake and complaints. And it really took a good year for the community to trust that they would not be receiving fines by enrolling cats into the program. And the greatest challenge was to get the residents to tell us how many cats they really had. And this could only be achieved by being a relatable person, not an officer. Ultimately, I was asking the community to be honest about illegal activity, asking them to trust me, because you can only really fix the issue if you know the extent of the issue. And then we had to desex all the cats at a property, as it wasn't really achieving what we needed it to achieve. So this was the first option. I took all the stray cats in the community that they were feeding and turned them into family members with responsible owners by providing free, no barrier resource to do so. This kept cats out of the pound from being surrendered and stopped the tap for unnecessary breeding. I linked into services who are also attending the same properties for social or mental health issues. The program became a community issue that was being solved by all of the community in collaboration. Education began with council itself. My theory was, how do we expect residents to be responsible and know about responsible pet ownership if council didn't understand themselves what we were trying to achieve or why? The internal education flowed on to bringing pet ownership into conversations at community safety meetings with all agencies, including aged care and disability support. I also set up a hoarding and squalor internal committee to ensure we supported and linked in specific properties with services they needed to keep both them and their pets safe. My contact with the community was always face-to-face because I wanted to ensure people knew who I was, could relate to me, and knew I had the best intentions for their pets. Also working in the animal care industry for over 30 years, so I've often heard people say they prefer working with animals over people. But the weird thing about that is, to work with animals, we need to be great at working with people so we can have an impact on their human behaviour change. So initially the desexing program was run twice a year, March and August. So we captured after Christmas and pre-kitten season. But from 2019, we had such a decrease in demand for cat desexing, so much so that the two programs, citywide and the targeted program, ran all year round. So the outcomes of the program was 869 cats desexed. The cat impoundments reduced by 66%. Euthanasia was reduced by 82%. Complaints citywide by 36%. The target area complaints reduced 51%. We increased our reclaim rates, and it saved council an estimated $440,000 with a desexing total cost of $77,490 for just the veterinary desexing services alone. So it was a bit of a no-brainer. There was also a 50% reduction in cats being surrendered directly by the public to the pound. And speaking to the community, I asked why they enrolled their cat in the program. Although people said they thought it was fair to pay up to $50 for desexing, that they still would not have had their cats desexed, and the only reason they did was it was free. So by keeping cats out of the pound and providing the resources for carers to take full ownership of stray cats made us community allies. By listening to the community, offering practical solutions and negotiating outcomes for cats and their people, trust was built and this became the new normal. I wanted to provide the community with the right information for them by assessing each situation and making a plan decided on by the resident. Cats that were enrolled into this program initially were adults or senior cats. But as time went on, the later years of the program, we saw cats more than 1 year old and under, so litters of kittens that were accidentally born. So really support first became before enforcement. So unless there was a critical animal welfare issue at a property, this was treated as a priority, of course, and may need a different course of action. So thanks to this program, animal management became a go-to for assisting people with pets in the community. I love that I could actually offer an alternative to help people, and by running this program, it also assisted the cats in the community and it assisted the pound, which was also our shelter. It assisted them by reducing intake for the council so much so that they could actually start taking cats and kittens from other pounds to help lighten their load. Although I've spoken about free cat desexing program at Banyule, the community also contacted animal management about dog issues, and when deemed a priority, dogs were also desexed and even the occasional rabbit. So the critical success factors that I see are the shift from punishment to support saw many cats in the community become owned. This reduced intake, euthanasia, decreased cat-related complaints, and that allowed me to focus on other priorities. Free services are absolutely invaluable. Enforcement only is costly for all involved. It does not achieve what's needed to resolve cat overpopulation. It's harmful for the cats and all of the animal care industry, rescues and volunteers. Support first delivered measurable and sustainable results, with many results of these programs now in peer-reviewed research. It's the level of the community engagement that I believe makes a successful community cat program. It is how you get community buy-in to the program, and once this happens, your program will spread from word of mouth. There's always a concern for the amount of budget needed to start. I say just start. This program started with $7,000, and you need to remember your demand will actually decrease the longer you run the program, so the less budget will be needed. Thanks for listening.